I'm being joined tonight on the program by a very notable economist in Nigeria and the CEO of Financial Derivatives, Mr. Bismarck Rewane. He joins us virtually from Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Rewane, for joining us tonight. It's good to see you. You don't look like you are in short supply of the new notes.
I was in short supply of the old notes, and also I'm also in short supply of the new notes. So I had nothing to change in the first place.
All right. I mean, if this affects you, I can imagine what a lot of people are going through. But give us a sense of what you think is going on. Let's take the conversation from what the Council of State meeting, the outcome of that meeting today. They made a suggestion. The summary of the suggestion is, look, print more money and allow more of, the two notes to concurrently flow in the system. What do you make of that kind of advisory? Don't forget, the Council of State are in the advisory capacity to the president.
Thank you. I think first and foremost, we need to step back because this is bidimensional. There's the political angle and there's the economic angle. I would like to share the thoughts of what the economic consequences of this actual policy is. So we start by saying, what were the objectives of the policy in the first place? The objectives were actually in all fivefold. 1, to curb inflation. 2, to reduce terrorism. 3, to reduce counterfeiting. 4, so tangentially to stop vote buying. And 5, to increase financial inclusion. Now, at the beginning of this policy, we had written out a note. That's the slide you see there. Those are the clear 5 objectives. At the beginning, I said, stated up there is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Good intentions don't get you there. So the program was congested. But anyway, we are where we are. Now, we have what they call the rule of unintended consequences. Let us break it down and see exactly what this means. Total money supply, which is not cash, is 52 trillion naira.
Sorry, Mr. Rewane, before you move to the next point, so let's get it clear. I mean, when I'm in trouble with economics, that's where I run to you. So for Nigerians and my viewers tonight who are watching, you say this policy in itself is not a bad policy. Implementation, from your standpoint, is a problem, is it?
Well, the congestion of the program itself had been a problem. So, but we are where we are. We'll come back to the political dimension. So you can't take it in isolation. So that's why I stated first, the intentions, the programs themselves are good, but could you have done it? Could you have started earlier, knowing that you had elections coming? Could you have actually made it flexible? Yes, I think we tried that. But the central bank is a central bank, and the Mint is a company that prints money on behalf of the central bank. So that's a different, and it's a security printing process. And the law is quite clear. The Central Bank of Nigeria, with the permission of the president, can decide in the best interest of the nation to do this. And that's why I stated the 5 intentions, very clear. Now, next slide is the rule of unintended consequences. Let us see exactly what the impact of this is. And I say this clearly, that the total money supply in Nigeria, and don't forget I said all cash is money, but not all money is cash. So you consider that money supply is 52 trillion naira, but the cash in circulation is 3 trillion naira. One of the problems was that people said people were keeping cash under their mattress, under their pillow, and all that. In any case, the cash, where I want to keep my cash, I want to keep it. You can't tell me how to keep it. So, but the interesting thing is that from the estimates we've seen, and these are just estimates, that 3 of the 8 denominations constitute about almost 2.7 trillion. In other words, about 77% of the total cash in circulation are made up of 200, 500, and 1,000 notes. And the rest of the denominations, which are 5, form a minuscule part of it, right? So what do we have? But the most important thing is that confidence. This 2.7 or whatever trillion you have is money that people keep and people pay to the bank. So on a given day, people are paying money to the bank and people are withdrawing money. But when there's a crisis of confidence, When people withdraw money, no money goes back into the banking system. So the banks are dry. The only one more supply of cash for them, central bank. People who have lost confidence in cash have taken the money out. So exactly what you wanted to avoid is what you are getting. Anybody who has money now is keeping it. I'd rather have a rat eat it because it's taking a long time. Or an armed robber come, the probability of an armed robber coming when he knows I have no cash is low. But if I pay the money into a bank and I don't get it out, the money is trapped. That is where the crisis of confidence comes. And if you look at it, it is actually, I've talked about the 3 to 8 denomination. And now let us see. Another thing that we must know is that 39% of Nigerians are entrepreneurs, directly or indirectly. And 16% of all activity in this country is wholesale and retail trade. If you take the assumption that almost all trades in the markets and the informal markets are settled by cash and only marginally by POS, you'll find that the velocity of circulation of money, which is very important, is 16 times. 16 times means that a trader turns around our money maybe 1.5 times a month. But if you take it as a percentage of trading activity alone, the velocity of circulation is 29 times. This is very complicated. But what it does mean is that 3 times in a month, a woman who is selling rice or gari and all of that turns her money, sells, and takes the money to buy back. If the cash is trapped, then you have actually stopped her from earning money. But that's interesting, but that's not the whole case. Now, if you go to the next slide, where we say, back to the cave or fast forward to the future. The consequences today are that, and I checked this out in the market, for a bag of rice today, we have, if you buy in old notes, you ask you to bring 42,000. If you buy in new notes, you pay 40,000. If you buy by transfer to the account, you pay 41,000. Some have no money, so they pay by credit. If you are taking credit, it's 45,000. So you have multiple pricing, which has serious implications, right? Then we call what we call disruption downtime, and you'll see that slide in a minute. It tells you that the average number of people in front of an ATM before now, this is a multiple pricing we're talking about old notes, new notes, transfer, and credit. The more distorted pricing is, the more it dislocates the allocation of resources, which is not good. Now, the other thing is the downtime due to queues in the petrol station and queues at the ATM. Before now, the average number of people in front of an ATM in Ikoyi, Victoria and Lekki were 3 to 4 people. In Midtown Lagos, which is the Ebutemeta, there were 8 people, Ebutemeta and Yaba, in front of the ATM at average times. And in Uptown, which is Alimosho, you had about 15 people. So the downtime was 5 minutes to get your money out of the ATM if you're in Ikoyi, 7 minutes if you're in Ebutemeta, and 10 minutes if you're in Alimosho. Now, fast forward to now, what are we seeing? Downtime, for the average number of people in front of an ATM in Ikoyi and Victoria Line are now 40. Now you can see that 40 people. In Midtown, in Ebutemeta, it's about 100 people. And in Alimosho, it's about 600 people. So there's mayhem and chaos out there. So what are we seeing? Consequences are that flour sales in Lagos, flour is down 30%. The rams in Kano are down 70%. And cement in Kogi State is down 40% of sales. So that is what we see. That is the economic dimension. And the impact at the end of the day is that it will affect GDP this quarter conservatively, right, by 3%, and by aggressively, it could reduce GDP in this quarter by 5%. Nothing is done in a hurry. Now, but the big problem is that when there's a crisis of confidence, the confidence and the credibility of the government cannot be tested. The consequence of a loss of confidence in government policy is a very, very tricky thing. So I want you to imagine that if a school announces that your children should come back on the 1st of January, and then your child leaves Warri and goes all the way to Enugu, only to find out they say, no, we postpone the date to the 10th of January, he comes back. The third time they call you, you say, look, find out when the school is open, and I'll send my child. I'm not going to send my child up and down. Now, if the government shifts ground on this deadline, it will do so much damage to its credibility as a governing body. So what the answer is this. One, increase supply if you can, if you have to import the currency notes and all that, so that one, people stop suffering. Two, that credibility of government is not eroded, which is already dented. And three, people will now start bringing money back into the banking system. Even if you print 7 trillion today and there's no credibility, all the money will stay under mattresses. And the whole role of money as a medium of exchange and money as a legal tender are two different things. The fact that you say it's legal tender doesn't mean that people accept it in exchange for anything. And these are basic economic rules. And fundamentally, well, we are where we are, and we have to deal with this. That is my explanation of this for all Nigerians today.
Well, interesting. There, I would like to take you back just with the 8th and the 9th slides, which for me have tremendous or far-reaching implications on the economy. You talked about multiple pricing and the distortions, the decline in sales reported across the market. For example, the comparison that you made, flour in Lagos, 30% down, rams in Kano, 70% down, cement in Kogi, 40% down. These are direct consequence. And you talked about the impact on all the aspects of the economy. Now you talked about the GDP and the inflation rate. Look at the graph on the 9th slide. And you're projecting something here. Is there anything that we can do, Mr. Rewane, to wind back the possible consequence so that, I mean, this is the economy that is very fragile, Mr. Rewane, isn't it?
Yes. First of all, you can't make omelette without breaking eggs. So we are where we are. Even if you cannot wind that back. All you have to do is to absorb it. Because a contraction in GDP means laying off people and all that. Thank God it hasn't lasted for too long. Thank God the elections are only 16 days away. Between now and then, maybe they would have put enough money into the system and it will not damage the economy. Neither will it damage the credibility of governance in the country, which is important. When governments make pronouncements and give deadlines, they must be obeyed. And that is the important thing. The moment you have a situation where you cannot be obeyed or you keep on changing it frequently, what you will have is anarchy. Because nobody will believe you anymore. You know? You say this is a currency and this is... Look, the currency of a country is so crucial and critical, and therefore must be respected.
So you made an example of not too far away country from ours here. That's Kenya. You call them the golden boy of cashless economy. What are they doing right that we are not doing?
Well, first and foremost, they are consistent. Secondly, they do the right thing at the right time rather than doing the wrong thing at the right time. Thirdly, institutions in Kenya are very strong and robust. Therefore, if Kenya makes an announcement, they go through. The presidential candidate, Ruto, said, I will remove subsidy on day one when I get there. And on day one, he did it. So, but the commodity that is in shortest supply in this country today is truth and honesty. So people come out to say exactly what they know is incorrect and false. And tomorrow they come back and say they changed their mind. So as long as you have a culture where it's not shameful to make public pronouncements which are false, then the consequence of it is this. But over time, I think that we will begin to see an improvement because there are consequences of this. Direct consequences and indirect consequences and unintended consequences.
So, Mr. Rewane, I'm a layman, and I would like to put it this way. If I have learned well from your explanation today, that we as a people have brought upon ourselves a disaster that naturally was sitting on its own, and we just drew it out of the bed, and boom, it's in our faces, isn't it? I mean, we could have done this at another time. Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, but you see, hindsight is 20/20 vision. We can talk from now to tomorrow. It doesn't change. We are on the ground. What we need to do is to do damage control. Damage control means that two aspects. Print more money, get the mint or whatever it is overseas to give us all of this supply, restore confidence. Because if you keep on moving deadlines, the day you say, you cry wolf, 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 the day when something happens, nobody comes out. So it is important. Let us not underestimate the importance of having discipline in government, right? And, we can blame ourselves from now to tomorrow. That's what we call unforced errors. But for Nigeria, this is, and I say categorically, this is set point, match point, so set point, break point, match point, championship point. If you get it wrong now, it's over.
And I'm going to ask you a very tough question, Mr. Rewane, because I am a proponent of name to shame, right? And governance is about the direct import of the policy of anybody in leadership or governance is on the average person. The CBN governor, is the man getting it right or wrong? If you were the president today, would you keep him? What do you think you will fix, especially at that Apex Bank, which has the lock and the keys to the livelihood of the Nigerian people?
I don't think blaming anybody would solve any problem right now. It's an exercise in futility. And you can claim that you can blame A, blame B, blame C. The point is that we, the people in this country today, are under pressure. The government and the policymakers are under pressure as to their credibility. Let's fix that rather than blaming people. If not, it becomes a lynch mob.
But Mr. Rewane, where then do we go from here? If you don't know where our wrong is, then how do we correct it? That's the point. If someone is not delivering to the needs and the yearnings of the people, should we keep the person on and on in office? That's the question I'm asking. We need to find out what the problem is. How do we then solve it?
Well, the last time I checked, the Governor of Central Bank reports to the President. The President has that responsibility. There are 18 new candidates, and there's one president right now. Let him, I'm sure the president is quite capable of doing his job, and he will decide when he wants to keep people or when he wants to, rusticate them or, for want of another word, amputate them. So, for now, it doesn't make any. What we should concentrate on is how we can get people to stop suffering and how we can get confidence back so that when the government says the deadline is obeyed. If you don't resolve these two things, then you have another thing coming.
So we are in an election period, and I would like to ask you, as much as I know that you're not a politician, you're a professional in the economic circle, but what implication, direct or indirect, do you think this could have on our election?
Well, I'm not sure that it will have any direct impact on the elections. The only thing is that in this quarter, the same institution that is handling currency is also handling the movement of election material. And in another month from now, you will also be dealing with census. In our note that we sent out in late November, I warned that even an efficient government will have to suffer from policy indigestion. Now it has come to pass. The indigestion has come out, and the country is now constipated. So what we should be looking for is a laxative to take care of this problem.
Now, one thing also that I like to bring to the fore now is the concern of the World Bank and the IMF, specifically on this policy. What do you make of the warnings that these two global financial institutions have given in respect of Nigeria's economy?
Well, I can understand their position. First of all, Nigeria has very severe multidimensional poverty. We have high unemployment. And therefore, anything that leads to a contraction in GDP, which will lead to unemployment, is a danger. So we are members of the IMF. We contribute our levies and every year. So they are supposed to send you warnings and give you advice, and it's up to you. But you see, those things are good and they are useful. So as we go along into this next dispensation, we would know the things to avoid, and especially the timing, and having what I call asymmetric information. If you are giving me information to make decisions and you don't give me all of it, are now making decisions, then the impact is on everybody. So, like I said, truly, the policies themselves are not bad. But if they are misconstrued by the people who are supposed to benefit from it, if they are done with other motives, what happens at the end of the day is that, remember, you can fool some of the people some of the time, you can fool all of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. That is exactly where we are. That's why I'm saying it is set point, break point, match point, championship point for Nigeria. Get it wrong now, and you are done forever.
I'll take you back to the 10th slide, Mr. Rewane, which is prompting me to ask this question. The example of the Kenya as a golden boy of a cashless economy that you gave earlier on. Now, we are in the process of transition. We're trying to do an election to get a new leader to run this country. Now, it does look to me from what you've said tonight that the next president of Nigeria is going to have his work cut out for him. There's a huge burden, debt burden that he needs to fix, the inflation rate, unemployment figures, a whole gamut of issues that he needs to deal with on the first day of assuming office. Looking at the example of Kenya, what advice would you give the next president of this country on the first day of getting into office? Because in the past we've seen those who have criticized a president for not taking quick decision on the issue of economy.
Well, to be honest with you, Kenya is the golden boy of cashless economy. But let us remember what happened in Kenya. There was an election which led to massive riots and multiple casualties and deaths. And everything was suspended. Then there was another election. In both cases, the election was finally decided at the judiciary level. And everybody accepted it because there was no judicial miscarriage or extrajudicial judgments. So the whole electoral process itself, from beginning to end, is filled with benefits, but also risks and landmines. So what happens before election? What happens on the election day? What happens when results are announced? And what happens when it is litigated? And so institutional strength is what saved Kenya. And that's why Kenya is still together as a national entity. But if the institutions of governance in this country, and when I say governance, both judicial, legislative, and executive, are weak and fragile at the slightest light of a match, you have a conflagration. So Nigerians should read the book by Amishwa, which is The World on Fire, and the dark sides of democracy. Democracy itself does not mean stability. Stability precedes democracy. But if you put it the other way around, so what you want to ask yourself, what I'm doing today, am I going towards stability, or am I going towards democracy because of the word democracy, right? So some people say democracy means them don't go crazy. So I don't know what that means. But obviously, in this part of the world, I think the most lucrative job should be that of a psychiatrist right now.
All right. So, Mr. Rewane, let's wrap up on this note. And my last question for you, and I will run through slide 5, 6, and 7 so that I can ask those questions. Anytime I'm on this program, one thing that comes to my mind is the average Nigerian people who make up the most of the population of our country. Now, if you look at slide 5, when you talked about back to the cave or fast forward to the future, the price of the commodity, some of the products that are already expensive, they're now going to buy it even more expensive. Look at slide 6, we talked about the downtime and more than what Nigerians can bargain for. And you made example of a situation in Lagos. What about the interior part of Benue State, or the interior part of Bauchi or Kebbi State or Kwara State? These are direct impact. And you look at the issue you raised about the man hours the people have spent and how that will impact on the GDP. You've given an advice to the government. I'd like to extract an unpaid consultancy for the privilege of our Nigerian people. Government doing their own on one side. what would you advise the Nigerian people to be doing? These are consequences. They need to tighten their belt, isn't it? But in what areas? How would they go about their lives so that their lives would not be too difficult for them at this time?
Let me first say that Lagos is a place where the GDP per capita, that's the income per head, is over $8,000, while the average GDP per capita in Nigeria is $2,000. Lagos is elitist, Lagos is sophisticated, and the people here can survive. When you go to certain parts of the country, where I come from, in Benin River, right? The people there, you have no money to even go to the ATM to get it. So there's poverty first and cash. The only time they can get cash is either if they rob somebody, mug somebody, or bunker some oil, or lick some pipe. So it's the fundamental problems of one, slow growth, low cash, and inequitable distribution of income, and governance, both at the state and local government level, which are ripping the people off. So we cannot litigate the whole problem of Nigeria on one program. But what I want to let you know is that today, the chips are down, do damage control, so that those guys who are in Ogidigbe, in Warri or Warri local government, or those who are in Kara and Moda, who have no money, who can only go to the ATM to use it as a mirror to look at their faces rather than draw money, they are in a different category than those who are in uptown Lagos and Alimosho who can go and draw their 5,000 and 10,000. That is the truth. You have to deal with your poverty problem, and that is the agenda for whoever is going to come in as the president on the 25th of February.
Interesting there. Mr. Bismarck Rewane, thank you so much. Always been a savior when it comes to these very, very difficult economic issues. You always come to my aid. Thank you so much. And actually for the benefit of the very many millions of Nigerians who are watching tonight, it's a case of, they say, the rich also cry. But in this case of our nation, because if someone like you don't even have enough cash to spend, imagine what is happening to just those people who are on the road of this country. It's indeed a very tough period for our people. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Rewane.
Thank you.